Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today's topic is on head injury. As you all know, head injury is a major cause of morbidity and mortality in India and all over the world. Definition of head injury is any trauma that leads to injury of the scalp, skull, or brain is head injury. The injuries can range from a minor scalp laceration to serious brain injury. Incidence of head injury, it is the number one killer in trauma. 4 million people experience head trauma annually. 25% of all trauma deaths occur due to head injury. 50% of all deaths are from motor vehicular accidents. The males in 15 to 24 year age group are more prone for head injury due to motor vehicular accidents. Males to female ratio is 2 is to 1. Infants and young children are also prone for head injury due to fall, and elderly are also prone for head injury due to falls. Causes of head injury include motor vehicle accidents, falls, assaults, sports related injuries, firearm related injuries. Mechanism of injury is blunt injury due to high velocity or low velocity, and penetrating injury due to gunshot, sharp instruments. The mechanism of head injury is acceleration. The immobile head is struck by a moving object and skull moves away from the force. Brain rapidly accelerates in that process from the stationary to in motion state, causing the cellular damage to the brain. And deceleration injuries, head is moving and hits an immobile object. Brain continues moving in the skull towards the direction of the impact, resulting in significant forces that damage the cells. Then coup and counter-coup injuries are there. Injury resulting from the rapid violent movement of the brain leads to coup and counter-coup injury. Coup injury is at the site of impact, while the counter-coup injury is opposite from that site of impact. Basic anatomy of the scalp and skull, as you all know, head consists of scalp, skull, meninges. In meninges, outer is the dura mater. In After that is arachnoid, and then the most innermost is the pia mater. Then there is brain tissue, and in the brain tissue there is CSF and blood. This is the pictorial diagram of the anatomy of the head, starting from the scalp to the brain matter. Morphological classification of the head injuries is scalp injuries, skull fractures, and brain injuries. In scalp injuries, it includes laceration or bruises, that is minor injury. Scalp is highly vascular structure in children due to bleeding. Children may develop shock due to scalp injury itself. A major complication of the scalp injury is infection. Then scalp hematoma includes three types of hematoma. One is subcutaneous, then subgaleal, and subperiosteal. This is subperiosteal hematoma, which is beneath the periosteum, and this is subgaleal hematoma, which is beneath the galea aponeurotica. Then there are skull fractures. In skull fractures, there are two types of fractures. One is the linear skull fracture, and another is depressed skull fracture. The linear skull fracture, there is break in the continuity of the bone, and it appears as a thin line on X-ray. It is full thickness fracture through the bone, and it is of little significance except when it runs through the vascular channel, venous sinus groove, or suture line of the skull bones. This is the linear skull fracture as you are able to view in child, and on axial it looks like this. The depressed skull fracture is the broken piece of the skull bone is pressed towards or embedded in the brain, and it causes neurological deficit, dual tear, and hematoma and infection due to the local pressure effect. Then in the skull base also there may occur fracture. In skull base there are three types of fossas. One is the anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, and posterior cranial fossa. Anterior skull base fracture is diagnosed clinically from the CSF rhinorrhea. Patient may produce CSF rhinorrhea, epistaxis, subconjunctival hemorrhage, periorbital hematomas, that is raccoon eyes. The picture is showing the raccoon eyes, how it looks like in anterior skull base fracture if the eye gets ecchymosed. And there may be anosmia due to injury to the olfactory nerve, which present in the anterior cranial fossa. Then there is middle skull fracture. In middle skull fracture, there may be CSF otorrhea, there may be hearing loss due to injury to the eighth nerve. The battle sign. The picture is of battle sign. There is ecchymosis behind the pinna. That is the battle sign that occurs in middle cranial fossa fracture. When in middle cranial fossa lies the facial nerve, so facial nerve pulsing may occur, and also there lies the labyrinth and all those things, so that may cause your vertigo and nystagmus. And in posterior skull fracture, there may be bruising over the occipital area and cranial nerve injuries lying in the posterior fossa. This is the double ring sign. The patient who is having CSF rhinorrhea may develop this sign. If you sneeze or put the CSF coming through your nose on the handkerchief, it will produce a double ring. The center spot will be of the blood and the peripheral rim will be of CSF. From that, you can conclude that patient might be having CSF rhinorrhea. So then brain injury, which is the main mortality in head injury. Brain injury is an insult to the brain caused by an external physical force. The injuries may be blunt or penetrating injuries. The pathophysiology of the brain injury, it is primary brain injury or secondary brain injury. Primary brain injury occurs at the time of impact and it is due to the mechanical damage. And permanent mechanical cellular disruption may occur, and the other microvascular injury, which includes cerebral contusion, diffuse axonal injuries, and cerebral lacerations. And secondary brain injury occurs at the time after the moment of impact. And this secondary brain injury is preventable if we take the early measures at the time of the primary brain injury. The causes of secondary brain injury are mainly due to the hypoxia if the partial pressure of oxygen reduces, due to hypotension, due to raised ICP which increases beyond the 20 mm of mercury, low cerebral perfusion pressure, pyrexia, seizures, metabolic disturbances. If these things occur during the primary brain injury, secondary brain injury may or likely to happen, which we can prevent. Then types of brain injury, it may be diffuse or it may be focal. In diffuse, it is concussion or diffuse axonal injury, while focal, it may be contusion, laceration, epidural hemorrhage, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, and intracerebral hemorrhage. Concussion is any trauma-induced alteration in the mental status. It is a temporary and brief interruption of neurological function without structural damage. Cause is due to shearing and stretching of white matter fibers at the time of impact, and temporary neuronal dysfunction occurs in concussion. Again, concussion is a brief confusion, disorientation, headache and dizziness, amnesia, return of consciousness, moments of minutes after impact, maybe up to 3 minutes. A concussed patient may remain unconscious. CT and MRI in concussion patient is normal. Post-concussive syndrome may occur in some patients and timing differs from 2 weeks to 2 months. In this interval, anytime it may happen. And it consists of persistent headache, fatigue, personality changes, short attention span, decreased short-term memory, sleep disturbances, depression, personality disorders. Then there is diffuse axonal injury. Diffuse axonal injury is severe widespread injury to axons in the cerebral hemispheres, corpus callosum and brainstem. Diffuse axonal injury clinical signs are loss of consciousness immediately, increased ICP, decerebration and decortication, cognitive impairment, spasticity. 90% of patients with severe diffuse axonal injury will be vegetative. CT is usually normal, while MRI may show some axonal changes in the MRI films. Epidural hematoma. Now we come to focal injuries, and in focal injuries there is epidural hematoma. In epidural hematoma, there is collection of blood between the dura and bones of the skulls. Skull fracture is present in 75 to 95% of cases in epidural hematoma cases. Source is most commonly due to rupture of middle meningeal artery, and the second most common cause is due to rupture of the dural venous sinuses. Pathophysiology of epidural hematoma is fracture of temporal bone rupturing through the branches of middle meningeal artery, or stripping of dura from the calvarium, which causes severe headache. The symptoms of epidural hematoma are brief loss of consciousness, headache, drowsiness, dizziness, nausea, vomiting. Lucid interval is considered as a feature of epidural hematoma. It may or may not be present in epidural hematoma. Lucid interval is not may present, but it is not very much significant. Even if it's not present, that does not go against the diagnosis of epidural hematoma. Lucid interval means patient first loses consciousness, then after some time he regains the consciousness, and again after some time he loses the consciousness. And that period in which he remains conscious is called lucid interval. Then rapid clinical deterioration may occur in EDH, hematoma expansion and elevated intracranial pressure are the causes for this rapid clinical deterioration in case of EDH, and that's why EDH is considered as emergency for operative purposes. Then acute subdural hematoma. It accumulates in the space between the dura and arachnoid matter and sources are disrupted cortical vessels, brain laceration produces hematoma. Signs within 48 hours of injury appear in SDH associated with major trauma and mainly due to the shearing forces. Mortality rate is as high as 40% in some series of acute subdural hematoma. CT scan shows these features. The hypodense convex hematoma spreading across the skull sutures. Midline shape disproportionate to the size of lesion occurs as the lesion is inside the dura mater. When there is subarachnoid hemorrhage, it is defined as blood within the CSF that occurs in the various systems of the brain. Trauma is the most common cause of subarachnoid hemorrhage. Tears of small subarachnoid vessels is the cause, followed by aneurysms. Rarely aneurysmal hemorrhage immediately precedes trauma. Most can be managed conservatively, but in case of aneurysmal subarachnoid hemorrhage, you need the operative management. Then, in another focal type of injury is cerebral contusions. Scoop and conticoup mechanism is the main cause of this contusions. It most commonly affects the frontal fossa, and in conticoup there is a affection of temporal lobes. CT appears heterogeneous with mixed areas of high and low density. Observation is the main treatment in contusions. Rarely it requires the surgical procedure. Then there are intracerebral hematomas bleeding directly into the brain tissue, and that may be of two types, that is intraparenchymal and intraventricular. In intraparenchymal, the bleeding is in the substance of the brain, while in intraventricular, the blood lies in the ventricular space. The causes of intracerebral hematoma are mainly hypertensive, but in trauma also there may be intracerebral hematoma or IVH can also occur in trauma cases. Then there is, as I told, hypertension is the cause, and ruptured arteriovascular malformation is again one of the cause of intraparenchymal and intraventricular hemorrhage. And in some patients who are having coagulopathy, there may be intracerebral or intraventricular hemorrhage. This is intraparenchymal and intraventricular hemorrhage pictures. In this case, the blood is around the thalamus, and in that case, the blood is in the lateral ventricle itself. Clinical presentation of this intracerebral hematoma is progressive, severe headache, several minutes it may last, nausea and vomiting, focal neurological deficits may occur, decreased level of consciousness may occur, and brain herniation may occur in intracerebral hematoma. This is the first introductory lecture to the head injury. In the next lecture, we will cover the management part of the head injury. Thank you. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay then. Thank you.